in this tutorial we will look at the practical example of Git workflow. But before looking at the practical example about the Git workflow, I'm going to talk about two more terms, and they are called master and origin. Okay, the first one is master. For example, if you would like to construct your dream house, the first thing that you need is a piece of land. So here I have a piece of land on which I am going to construct my dream house. Consider this is the front portion and this is the back portion. For example, if you want to construct some kind of room somewhere here, for example the room to play the games, and then here you want to construct a kitchen, and at the end you want to construct a small bathroom. Okay, so the first room is called the playing room, which is used to play the games, and the second one is the kitchen, which is used to cook, and the third one is the bathroom, and you know what you will do inside bathroom, so I'm not going to talk about that. Okay, so these are the different blocks or the rooms which you want to place in your dream house. Okay, now one question from my side is, are these rooms part of your house or not? Of course they are part of your house, right? The first room which is basically to play the games, and the second room is used to cook, and finally the bathroom. So these are all are part of your house, but the facilities that they provide are different. And I will call this land as the main line, because if I want to construct my dream house, that is what the main thing which I want, right? Similarly, if you want to start work on any kind of project which is getting managed by Git, you will be provided with a default branch, which is also called master branch. And then you will make your own features which are called the topic branches. So I will call this main land as master, which is nothing but the master branch. So just think that if you ever clone any project, or if you initialize any project with Git, which is basically any project which is getting managed by Git, by default you will be provided with a branch called master. Okay, that branch name is called master, and then once you get the master branch, you will slowly create your own branches, and they are called feature branches, are also called topic branches. So I'm going to talk about the feature branches, topic branches, and all the different kinds of branches that we create. So we will slowly dig into those topics, but for now just remember that whenever you clone a project, by default you will be provided with a branch called master. And the next one is server default name. Okay, recently I brought a speaker from my friend Aravind, and the speaker is working very fine. Every day morning I used to keep songs in a loud voice, and all of my neighbors used to enjoy that speaker. Once one of my neighbor asked me regarding that speaker. They just asked me that, where did you get this speaker from? Then I said that I brought this speaker from my friend Aravind. Okay, and they were very happy with that. So here whenever my neighbor asked me a question regarding the speaker, I am able to answer them because I know the name of my friend. For example, I don't know the name of my friend, then how would I answer to my neighbor's question? I can't answer, right? Similarly, if you ever clone, or if you ever get project from some kind of hosting service like Git Bash, GitLab, or Bitbucket, etc., how would I communicate back once I get the project into my local system? Of course, it should have some kind of name or some kind of reference so that I can communicate back, right? So origin is the default server name which will be provided to us once we clone any kind of project. So from the next time onwards, if you ever wanted to push the new changes to the remote repository, you can use this origin as the reference. Okay, let's get into the Git workflow concept. As we talked earlier, there will be 3 stages in our local system, and there will be a stage called remote repository. So we get the project into our local system from some kind of hosting services like GitHub, GitLab, etc. And then we do some kind of modifications which will be sent to a place called staging area, and then which will be sent to a place called local repository, and then finally it will be pushed into a place called remote repository. So this is what we talked about in our earlier tutorial. And then I have told that if you ever wanted to push changes from your working directory staging area, you have to perform an action called add, and then from staging area to the local repository you have to commit, and finally from the local repository you will push it to the remote repository. So let's look at it by doing a practical example. Now Ramu got a task. Let's look at his task. So he got a task from Deepak. So Deepak is saying that please work on below changes, and the changes are change title from SureshTechs to SureshTechs tutorials. Okay, and the second task is center introduction title, and here is the Git URL. Okay, so this is the URL which Ramu has to use to clone the project, which is nothing but getting the project from a remote repository. So Deepak has provided a Git URL and Ramu has to use that Git URL to get the project into his local system. Okay, let's go to Deepak's GitHub account and let's check this repository once. So I'm going to open Google and I have opened Deepak's GitHub account already. And if you look at here, there is an option called code. So I'm going to click on that. If you look at here, there is an option called clone with HTTPS. So as I said earlier, clone is nothing but copying. So we are basically getting this project. If you look at here, you have a folder called images and then readme.md and finally home.html. So whenever Ramu clones this project, he is going to get all these files and folders into his local system. Okay, so how will Ramu get this project into his local system? He has to do a clone. So if you ever wanted to clone any kind of project, you have to click here and there is an option called clone with HTTP, and similarly if you click on use SSH, you can clone the project using SSH. So if you want to clone with SSH, you have to add a public key and it has some kind of other procedure. So I'm going to make a separate video for that, but for now we are going to use HTTPS. Okay, let's clone with HTTPS. So if you ever wanted to clone with HTTPS, first of all you need to copy this URL. This URL is nothing but the URL which Deepak has sent to Ramu. Okay, if you look at here, you have https://github.com and then Deepak203 followed by SureshTechs.git, right? So if you look at here, this is same https github.com Deepak203 and then SureshTechs.git. Okay, now I'm going to copy this. So I just copied. Now I'm going to open Git bash. Okay, I'm going to open Git bash. Okay, I have Git bash. Okay, now let me create a directory where I want to keep all my projects. So to create a directory, you have to type mkdir. Mk stands for make and then dir stands for directory. Mk directory, which is nothing but I am making a directory. And then I'm going to give the directory name as Git projects. Okay, remember this is just a directory creation and we haven't started any Git work so far. Okay, I just have typed mkdir and then Git projects. I'm going to enter. Okay, now if you look at here, if I say ls, which is going to list all the files, okay, you can see here you have a directory called Git projects. So I'm going to change to that directory now. So if you ever want to change the directories, you have to say cd. Cd stands for change directory and then the directory name, which is nothing but Git projects. Okay, I'm just going to clear once, which is going to clear the console output. Okay, so I am under Git projects now. Now what you have to do, you have to clone the project. Cloning is nothing but just copying. Okay, so I'm going to say git clone followed by the URL which is available here. So I'm going to copy it and just copy it and I am going to paste it here. Okay, and then you have to press enter. Then it is saying flowing into SureshTechs and then you got the projects. Now what you need to get? You need to get all these folders and files into your local system. So let's check. So I'm going to say ls. What is it? There is a folder created. Of course I should get these images and directories, right? But what happened? There is a folder created. Yes, whenever you clone a project, it is going to create a folder with the name of the repository. So here the repository name is SureshTechs. That's why it has created a name for you which is called SureshTechs. And if you want some other name instead of the repository name, you can do that. So I'm going to talk about that by the end of this tutorial. But for now, just think that whenever you clone any project, it is going to create a folder with the name of the repository. So I'm going to move to that directory now. So I'm going to say cd SureshTechs. Okay, so whenever I move to SureshTechs folder, if you look at the right side, there is something called master. So there is something called master. So as I said earlier, master is the default branch which will be provided to us whenever we clone the project, right? That is what happened now. You just clone the project and you got a branch called master. So this is called the default branch. So I'm going to talk about the branching concept in depth in our further tutorials, but for now just remember that we'll get a default branch called master when you clone any kind of project. Now let me say ls. Now if you see here, you got all the files and folders which are part of this project. Okay, what you have done now, you have just cloned the project. So cloning is nothing but copying. So you'll basically get all the projects from any kind of repository into your local system. So now we are here. Now we have project in our working directory. Okay, let's look at Ramu's task. So Ramu's task is to change title from SureshTechs to SureshTechs tutorials. Okay, let's go back to the Git bash. Okay, so we have few files here, so I'm going to look at all these files. So if you ever wanted to view the data present in any kind of the file, you have to use a command called cat. So if you want to view the data which is available in home.html, you just have to say cat followed by home.html. So it is going to show up all the data which is available in that file. So if you look at here, this is the home.html data. Okay, so I'm going to clear the console once. So I'm going to say clear. So console is cleared. And I'm going to say ls. It is going to list all the files which are part of my project. So now let me open this project in my file explorer. Okay, I'm going back to my file explorer where I have Git projects and then I have SureshTechs. Okay, I have home file, so which I am going to open in Google Chrome. Okay, I have opened the project in Google Chrome and I have the title as SureshTechs and I have the introduction in the left side, and my tasks are, the first task is change title from SureshTechs to SureshTechs tutorials, and the second one is center introduction title. Okay, now let me open this file in notepad++. Okay, notepad++. Okay, the first task is change title from SureshTechs to SureshTechs tutorials. Okay, I'm going to change. So I'm going to change title SureshTechs to SureshTechs tutorials. Okay, the first task is done, and the second task is center introduction title. Okay, but before that let me just check whether this is done or not. So we just changed SureshTechs to SureshTechs tutorials. I'm going to give a refresh. Yes, it worked. Okay, and now I'm going to center this introduction title. Okay, to center the introduction title, this is introduction title, so I'm going to give a style. Okay, where this is part of HTML code, so don't think that this is part of Git. Okay, I'm just working on the project, that's it. So I'm going to say text align to center. I'm going to save it and I'm going to refresh it here. Okay, cool. So Ramu has completed his two tasks. The first task is to change SureshTechs to SureshTechs tutorials, and the second task to center the introduction title. So both are completed. Now we have done two changes. The first change is this, changing SureshTechs to SureshTechs tutorials, and the second change is adding a style. Now let me go back to my Git bash. Okay, now you have done two changes. So you did some kind of changes, right? And as I said earlier, there will be a folder called .git which is going to track your files. But where is that folder? If I say ls, will it show? No, it is not showing, because .git is a hidden folder. If I go back to my file explorer, we can able to see that. Now if you look at here, okay, I am under Git projects and then SureshTechs, right? Now if you look at here, .git is a hidden folder, and if you are not able to see this folder, you can go to view and there is something called hidden items. You have to check this. If you check this, you could able to see .git folder. This is the important folder which would be automatically added to us whenever you clone any kind of projects, and this is important in tracking and untracking the files. Okay, just like CID. So if I say git status, okay, if I say git status, what is it saying? It is saying that home.html file is modified. Yeah, that's what happened. I just modified home.html, right? Here under the notepad++, this is home.html. That's why it is displaying home.html is modified. That's completely fine. Now you have just modified the file. And then what you have to do, you have to add it to place into staging area. So currently your file is in your working directory. Now to move to your staging area, what you need to do, you have to add it. So I am going to say git add followed by the file name, which is nothing but home.html. I am going to press enter. Okay, now if I say git status, Now what is it saying? Use git restore staged and then the file name to unstaged. That means your file is in staged state now. As we discussed earlier, whenever you clone the project, you will get it into your working directory, and then if you want to move from working directory to the staging area, what you have to do, you have to add. That's what we did, right? We just added and then it moved to staging area. And if you want to go back from the staging area to the working area, what you have to do, you have to say git restore followed by staged and then the file name, then you will go back to your working directory. But for now I will not go back, instead I'll stay in my staging area. Okay, now we are under staging area. Now if you want to move from the staging area to the local repository, what you need to do, you need to commit. That's what it is saying here, changes to be committed. Okay, I am going to commit it. So to commit, what you have to say, git commit. Okay, if you say git commit enter, it is going to open the default editor. And if you have followed our previous tutorials to configure notepad++ with git, it is going to open notepad++ for you, where you need to basically enter the commit message. A commit message is nothing but a message which talks about the changes which you have recently done. But if you don't want to open the VA editor or the notepad++, you can give an inline commit. An inline commit would be done in the single line. So if you want to give the inline commit, you have to say git commit followed by -m and then the message that you want to give. So I am going to give double quote followed by updated home page. Okay, or you can say completed 2 tasks and press enter. Okay, the commit is done. So if you want to see what is there in this commit, you just have to say git log. Log is used to display the history. So I'm going to press enter. Now if you look at here, see, this is what happened. Author Ramu, and then the date when he has modified that, and then the message which he has entered. This is called the commit information. So if you don't know about this commit ID or this head or this master, I'm going to talk about all these in detail in our further tutorials. So please do subscribe to our channel to get notified about the new videos which we upload. Now we have committed the code. That means we are here. First we added and then we committed. So now our code is in our local repository. So if you say git status, okay, it will say that nothing to commit, working directory clean. Okay, and if you say ls and if you say cat on your home.html, it will have your changes. Okay, home cat home.html. If you look at here at the top, see here you have style text align center, and here you have SureshTechs tutorial. So you have the updated changes, but your working directory is clean. So I'm going to just clear once again. Okay, now what you have to do, you have to do a push to send the changes from your local repository to the remote repository. But before pushing, I am going to open my Chrome once. Okay, I'm going back to Deepak's GitHub account. Okay, so I have home.html here. I'm going to open it again. If you look at here, we don't have SureshTechs tutorials and then a style for this h2 element. So now I'm going to push. Okay, now to push, I should know the server name, right, which is nothing but the origin. That's what I have talked about. Whenever you do a clone, it is going to give you the server name, that is nothing but the origin. So if you want to see the server name, you can say git remote -v. Okay, this is called the name. Okay, this is called the origin. Now what we have to do is git push followed by the name of the server, which is nothing but origin, and then the branch, which is nothing but the master. Okay, and I am going to press enter. What happened? Your changes are pushing to the remote repository. Done. Now if you go back and give a refresh, okay, what happened? See here, done. See here, SureshTechs tutorials. This is what Ramu has done, right? This is what the Ramu's task. His task is to change SureshTechs to SureshTechs tutorials. That is done. And then he has centered the introduction title. And if you look at here on the top, Ramu Tony 22 updated home page, completed 2 tasks. If you remember, this is what the commit message he has given when he has done the commit. So congratulations, you have completed your first practical session. And now, as I said earlier, if you ever clone the project, by default you will be given a folder with the name of the repository, right? And if you want some other name instead of the repository name, what you have to do is, so I'm going to clear it once. So cleared. Okay, now I am under SureshTechs repository. So I'm just going back once. Okay, now I am under Git projects. Now what I will say, git clone followed by the remote repository URL, which is nothing but here. This is what we copied right earlier when we cloned. So I am going to copy it. So I just copied. So I am going to paste it. After this, you have to provide a name which you want your folder to be named as. So I am going to say my project. Go enter. Okay, now if I say ls, look at here, my project. Previously it is SureshTechs, but now it is my project. Okay, that's all about Git workflow practical example.